Okay, good afternoon everybody. Hopefully you can hear me all right at home. If you could just let me know in the chat and that our video is working okay, then that will be fab. Thank you very much. No problem, cap 78 red. It's nice to have interaction from you guys at home. We like that, don't we?
Depends who it is.
Depends who it is. Depends who it is. Excellent.
Yeah.
Fine. Sounds like everybody can hear me, so that's fantastic. We are up to round number 4 of the British Chess Championships. Let's have a look at the pairings for today. So, Danny, as is your the tradition, do you want to talk us through some of the games up at the top?
Well, I think the only game that's really interesting is this game, Adams-Fernandez, because obviously I personally think the winner will come from this pairing. So I was actually looking at their results before. They played twice, once an online event, which was a draw, but they played a very important game at Cambridge a few months ago, which Adams managed to win with white, same colours here. But Fernandez quietly finished second there. I do believe that Fernandez has kind of separated himself from the kind of Marcus Harvey, Harry Grieve, Jonah Willow, Brandon Clark kind of generation. He kind of gets thrown in with, i.e. the idea that they're all about the same. I think he's kind of separated himself a little bit from that lot. So the next logical step is now to challenge the more senior players like Adams and try and beat them. So it's an interesting opportunity for him today. Adams obviously would have very disappointed with his draw yesterday. The only way to erase the memory of that for him will be to win this game, effectively. We're hoping to win. I know Fernandez is late for the game, if it's deliberate policy or not.
Interesting, yeah. Unless he's having a bit of a think about what to do and move on.
I doubt it. Doesn't really tend to have many thinks.
Is GingerGM here? No, I'm afraid he's not here. You're stuck with GingerGM.
He might be quietly watching.
He might be quietly watching. Yes, maybe he's quietly watching. If so, say hello, Simon. Anyways, you can see here by the standings, Daniel Fernandez is leading. He's the only player on 3 out of 3. Followed by a group of 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 players on 2.5. If we just go back to the pairings there and have another look. Oops, that's pairings from round 3. Pairings from round 4. We've also got Eldar Gasnov, who impressed yesterday with his draw.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, he's a player that people aren't very familiar with. He's from Ukraine. I think his peak rate is about 25-50. He's obviously a decent player. So he's got an opportunity today. He's white against James Jackson, so he'd be favourite to win that game. Taran Kanyamarala had a good draw yesterday. He probably should have played on in the final position against Nick Pert. He's now played Harry Grieve. He did a very good effort to win that drawn endgame against. Yeah. Shows his determination. You know, from downtown, he managed to win against poor old Richard Bates, our good friend Richard Bates. So that's an interesting pairing as well. We've also got Borna, who's...
Shana, we haven't seen any of his games as of yet.
But he's a good player. I mean, I've played him a few times, never beaten him over the boards. We've had a few draws. Very, very... I remember playing him in Hull in 2018. I was a bit demoralised after the game to learn he was also playing in the morning session. So I drew the game. It was a really tough battle. Really tough game. I think we were both doing well at certain points. He was close to winning at the end. He's playing against Wadsworth, who yesterday seemed to be bouncing after his win against Jack Rudd. So that's a good sign. I think you know, he was exuding positive body language. So yeah, I'm expecting big things from the big Wad in this tournament. And you got Lan Yao against Jonah Willow. Lan Yao, very, very tough cookie. We already discussed this, playing against Jonah Willow, who's getting very good results.
Yeah, she had a good win yesterday, didn't she, Lan Yao, against Trisha Kanyamarala.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, she wasn't really better in that game. Trisha just made a big mistake that we already identified. So Nick Pert is up against. That's a good pairing for Nick because obviously he'd be disappointed with the way he started, but it's a chance for him to bounce back. Obviously William is quite a decent player himself, but it'd be interesting to see that game because I played William before. He's a good player, but managed to beat him on a couple of occasions. So you see, I haven't really seen in my own games. I haven't really seen the best of William. I wouldn't say. I feel like he's capable of better than that. So it'd be interesting to see what he does against Nick. And then you got Mark. So you know, the people's favourite, Mark, the Heb, against Dong, who's a very good player in his own right. Had a tough game against Mickey Adams, and then you got Yu Chen Han, Andrew Ledger. So lots of fascinating pairings, to be totally honest with you. But obviously, the main game we're focusing on, we're still waiting on Fernandez to make a move. Maybe he's just sitting there shaking with fear, and he cannot force himself to make a move.
What do you think his first move will be?
I think he'll play the Sicilian because I feel like it's going to be Caracan. He does play the Caracan a lot, I think, Daniel. So, but
I think he'll take a solid approach to this.
Yeah, but I think the main thing is, wow,
Okay.
Scandi.
Shows what I know.
So Adams immediately taking
GingerGM, hello. GingerGM says A6.
Well, you know, Magnus has been having a lot of success online with A6 and C6.
Has he?
Yeah, he won a title Tuesday with 11 out of 11. That's all he did as black, but I might try and do a course on that. But I'll probably find that somebody else is already doing a course on it. Simon's already agreed a contract, so...
Okay, so he's played 3 Queen D8, which I think from memory he's done before. I don't think this is a first.
Simon doesn't seem to like the Scandi.
No, I don't think he's going to do a course on it.
He's not a fan of the Scandinavian. I mean, there is a line where you put the Queen on D6, isn't there? Which is quite popular. Queen D6 and then either go A6.
Was a big expert on that.
Queen D6 Scandi. Yeah, I was looking at a game just now, Caruanas versus Tiviakov.
Right.
But Queen D8 is an interesting idea. Actually, Magnus has played this against, I believe, Tiviakov. There is some danger for black. Obviously, the idea that white will dominate the centre with knight f3, but black will probably try and play the bishop g4, get a very solid setup, bishop g4, put the pawn on e6, knight f6. It's a little bit similar to the kind of Fort Knox variation, the French, which is also very hard to break down. You basically just get your pieces out, and you know you got that kind of very solid pawn structure on the king's side, very, very hard to break down for white. So yeah, not a bad opening choice, I would say. Be interested to see how the opening develops.
Yeah. Knight f6. Obviously, he's waiting for that knight to come out to f3 before he develops his queenside bishop.
But what other move can you play other than knight f3? Are there any other moves other than knight f3? That I don't really see an obvious. Bishop f4
bishop
maybe?
c4 maybe?
Or bishop c4? Or... I was taught to develop your knights before your bishops, so I just foolishly played knight f3. Allowing the pinning bishop g4, pinning and winning. Daniel plays everything very hard to prep for. I agree with you. It doesn't seem to be. I don't think it's kind of a. We've already discussed this. It's kind of a double-edged approach. That if you play everything, you end up becoming a master of nothing. By the way, these guys are both runners, I believe, because on Fernandez's Facebook page seems to be a picture of him running. And apparently I've heard Adams is doing very good times in park run. So apparently he's a very good middle distance runner. I don't know if park run is middle distance or
5k.
5k, yeah, kind of middle distance or long distance. So according to Matthew Sadler, I think Adams is the sort of guy who's good at everything, right? You know, some people are just good at everything. And if chess had never been invented, they probably would have been, you know, top level in something else, right? In my opinion. So, you know, chess players are very competitive people. Or grandmaster chess players, I would say. Are very competitive people. Funny enough, I had a dream last night about the snooker. It's obviously Bronnie O'Sullivan. It's like a snooker player, right? But he's also a runner.
Yeah.
and he also does very good times, I think, running. So I think that's a way.
Helped to sort out his psychological
That's right.
issues, shall we say, a little bit.
Well,
running. It certainly helped. Certainly.
Yeah, it helps you to relax and gets you fit. I think Adams is into a lot of this running, and Fernandez. So maybe if they draw, they could have like a runoff, like Chariots of Fire, they're running around the university, right?
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Instead of a chess playoff, a runoff.
A runoff, yeah. So
once around Castle Gardens and back.
oh, have you already?
No, that's what they're going to.
Oh, that's what they're going to do. Yeah.
Across the bridge.
I was watching that film Chariots of Fire recently, and I noticed actually in the start of the film, it's set in St Andrews. It's filmed in St Andrews in Scotland, but they set it somewhere else. So because I recognised that it was St Andrews, which is obviously famous for the golf, famous for university, but they set it somewhere like Devon, because I don't know why they did that though. It's kind of a weird little nugget of information. I'm full of those kind of. By the way, I'm doing an impossible quiz later, so if anyone in the audience wants to take on my impossible quiz, which is
that's the live audience, isn't it?
The live audience. Yeah. I don't think we were doing that live unless Simon is happy for me to stream it live on GingerGM, but.
And then Danny's got to work out how to stream it live on GingerGM.
I won't be able to do that. So if anyone wants to stay on for that, I'd be very happy, to do my impossible quiz. I've had a number of people try to do it already. Most people have failed dismally, so this is a challenge to you.
What's the impossible quiz about, Danny?
It's six chess positions, and you basically just got to come up with the best move. But they're difficult. They're difficult positions, so they're difficult. Yeah, very, very tough. And I've said it to a number of people already, several title players.
Okay.
Including Grandmaster Keith Arkle, who's playing. By the way, he asked.
Did he get 2 out of 6?
I couldn't put. I don't really want to say what scores people got in case that kind of skewers, the approach of the great people in our audience. But I was chatting to him last night in a pub. By the way, we were in the Saw Point, which is quite near the venue. They do very good food in there. If you ever get a chance, go down to Saw Point. It's excellent food.
What did you have?
I had the mac and cheese. It's probably the best mac and cheese I've ever had. There wasn't much else. It was just mac and cheese, but a little bit of salad. But he was asking if we could look at his games. I don't know if we could look at one of his games from the seniors at some point.
Possibly. We'll see if
we're really desperate.
Figure out how to do that. How is Keith doing in the over 50s? Well, they only play one round, so the over 50s started yesterday. Did he win?
He managed to win against. He was clearly worse out the opening against Andrew.
Smith. Andrew Smith.
Andrew Smith. Yeah. By the way, Kevin Winter asked me a question. I'm not really a middle distance runner. I did do the sprint at Sports
Pay.
I was quite good at sprinting. My best time with 100 metres was about 13.2 seconds. Well, it was quite good for like a 12 or 13-year-old. Obviously, it wasn't quite national level for that age, or sort of like county level. You'd probably have to be about at least 12 seconds. But I did enjoy a bit of sprinting. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into chess, actually, because I was kind of fascinated by athletics when I was younger. I used to follow all the athletics. My heroes used to be people like Linford Christie, Colin Jackson, Sebastian Coe, people like that, Steve Cram.
Yeah.
And I knew all the times for like all the athletics events. And that's kind of how I got into chess, really, because you got that kind of geeky element where you know about, you know the times. I could remember all the world records. Like who was like Ben Johnson, 9.79. Carl Lewis was like 9.91 or whatever. World Athletics Championships 1991. And then you kind of get into chess, right? Which is kind of similar. It's very competitive. It's very much about, the facts.
What age did you start playing chess seriously?
I didn't play any junior chess, Adam. I mean, I know yourself, you played quite a lot of junior chess, I think. but I never really played any junior chess, and I kind of started getting into chess when I was about. What happened was my dad taught me when I was about. Should I do the whole biography thing?
Please.
Yeah. So my dad taught me when I was about 7 or 8, and I picked up chess straight away. So obviously he taught me and my sister, my older sister, but she didn't really get into it. And how I really got into chess was we had a teacher at my school, Brindish, called Mr. Keane, and he was like a bit of a chess player. And so I started playing with my classmates, and we were all quite bright, I think. So we used to play a lot. And then we went away on a school holiday, and all my friends wanted to go to disco, right? So they wanted to, like, try it on with the girls and all this kind of stuff. And all I wanted to do was play chess, right? So I basically threw like a hissy fit and started crying because I wanted to play the teacher at chess. And I played him and I beat him. That was the first time I'd ever kind of beaten like an adult who was any good at chess. So that's kind of how I got into chess.
What age were you then?
I was I'd been about 10 or 11 at the time. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't really play much junior chess. But and here I am now, at the pinnacle of the game.
Pinnacle of your achievements.
Exactly.
Okay, so just quickly there to show, Adams didn't have, or he didn't feel that it was either a more useful move than knight f3, or
yeah, no,
probably
that's
just
a
theoretically.
That's a logical.
There we go. Logical move to play, and after bishop g4 he immediately plays h3. Now I think that the reasoning for doing this quite so early is if Fernandez had gone bishop h5, he would probably have played g4 and knight e5. I would think.
Right. Yeah, that would be very logical. So what's actually happening in the game?
So he's taken on f3, so immediately giving up the bishop.
Yeah, which I think is very logical. If you go bishop, I was looking at a game actually earlier
c6.
where I was doing a bit of work. And I feel like once you go bishop g4, if white goes h3, you should generally always take. I mean, often in a lot of openings, white goes h3 to prevent bishop g4 because that gives black bishop some kind of some kind of use. So he's taking on f3, play c6. So what would be a logical move here, Adam? Do you think?
So now black is definitely thinking about capturing on d4, which he wasn't last move because of queen takes b7. So he's got to do something, I would think, about his pawn on d4, unless he's going to try and play some sort of extremely aggressive move with the initiative. I don't quite know what it might be. Sure. Bishop g5 or right. I don't really trust that too
pawn
much.
Is a pawn, right? I mean, the move that's screaming out at me is bishop e3, right?
Yes,
just defend the pawn.
That looks like
seems like the most logical,
sensible move. Bishop e3.
You know what? I'm going to predict that this game will be a draw because you get that feeling, right? It's going to be a draw. I think Fernandez is going to be a major contender in this tournament, maybe even win it, right? I just get that you get that sneaky feeling that Fernandez is going to win, right? The tournament. Is it just me?
Yeah, I don't.
By the way, Keith Arkle's actually tipped up Fernandez.
Okay, so it's not just you then.
He's big on Fernandez to win this. So he told me to mention that, by the way. And Keith is, like, we call him the Oracle or something like that. The Oracle. Oh no, hang on, that's his name. It's got the
Oracle.
Something like that. Yeah, the Oracle.
The Oracle of chess.
But anyway, he's tipped up Fernandez, and I think that's the perfectly. Adams has gone bishop e3, but obviously this will be the key game because if Adams was to win it, then you are then looking at potentially Fernandez falling behind, having to play catch up. But if Fernandez gets a draw, suddenly it's out of Adams' control. Fernandez has escaped him. There's only 5 rounds left. He's half a point behind. We've already discussed this. In such a short tournament, it's a bit of a sprint. Having that lead is really significant. So I think this is a massive game for the... And
another thing to maybe just mention on that point is if Fernandez does get a result today, Adams will have had a double white.
Exactly.
So he could potentially be looking at a double black.
I think Adams will be furious if he doesn't win this game today because I think I can't remember him ever failing to win like 2 games in a row with white against lower rated players in the British. But of course, it's never that easy. You know, you look at that. Well, Fernandez is a very good player. The guy who played yesterday is a very good player. I think he had a slight chance in that game. I was surprised he went knight e5 takes d7. But you know what you tend to find with players like Adams is they adjust. You know, he recognised yesterday it wasn't his best day. He's going to adjust. He's going to change something. He's going to try and we're going to see the best of Adams today. So it's going to be a very interesting game. I would expect to move after e6. I would expect to move castles. Looks like the most natural to me. Castles queenside by white. I do think that white has a nice edge. Castles queenside. If bishop b4 kind of looks pointless because you just go to e4.
Oops, sorry, that's the wrong board. Let me try that again. Castles queenside, bishop b4, and then some. What would you say? Think knight e4 or knight e2?
I think knight e4.
Knight e4
looks. Although no, actually no. I'm noticing you can take and go queen d5, right? Yeah,
yes.
And bore them to death. That
queen
would be
d5 is a little bit annoying because of course you hit a2, which forces the queens off actually, doesn't it? So that's not.
Yeah,
not
that's a good move actually. So
a knight e2 doesn't look so silly.
But still queen d5.
Oh, but still queen d5, of course, yeah. That's a little bit annoying, isn't it?
More than a little bit annoying. And if a3 immediately, which actually playing against that plan.
Oh, beforehand.
Instead of castling. So we clearly see you're trying to think about what is your opponent intending to do, right? They're clearly intending to go bishop b4. You'd think. So a3 is a prophylactic move. But now I can go knight d5 anyway, which is still annoying. But maybe after knight d5,
knight e4.
Knight e4, and then just
allow the bishop to come off.
Doesn't look terribly convincing for white, but no, it doesn't. Yeah. It just looks fine for black. Quick draw in the offing.
I don't think he's going to play a3. One question I have is where he's going to develop this bishop to. Whether he's going to put it on d3 or whether he's going to put it on g2. Yeah. Because it looks a bit strange to put it on g2 because of course of this block down this diagonal. But there were some positions that I remember arising from the Caro-Kann structure where this is the right square to put it on, and then essentially just to play on the queen side. So to play something like a3, b4, b5, try and loosen that structure up a bit, and just employ the bishop down that diagonal. That would obviously entail castling king side, not queen side. So a move like g4 might be also under consideration. Problem of g4 is maybe the same sort of thing happens with bishop b4.
I think this is good preparation by Daniel. Like, it's avoiding like a lot of sharp stuff. It's avoiding all this bishop b5, well prepped stuff by Adams in the Sicilian, and just going into slightly unusual position where black seems to be fine.
Somebody in the chat suggested bishop c4. That would stop the queen d5 idea, although the bishop could be a target for one of the black either pieces or pawns, either with knight d7 to b6 or with just b5 at some point. So if the bishop came to c4, I would think that white would probably be castling king side rather than queen side. It'd be interesting to see what Adam's plan is here, what he decides to do.
Well, what move would you play, by the way? Just
what move would I play?
Put you to the test. You know, there's no vagueness.
Okay.
I want an answer.
What about this? What about?
Oh, you want to go queen g3 here?
Yeah, but then you're going to go queen d6, are you?
I don't know. Or g6, maybe.
No, you're not going to go g6.
Why not? Maybe I can even develop the bishop on g7. Doesn't look completely stupid to me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's lots of different moves here for black, aren't there?
Yeah. What would I play?
Would you castle and then walk into his bishop b4, knight e4, trade, queen d5, Maybe you could play that, because then I take, and then I go c3, and then I have tiny advantage in the game. I don't think that's enough to realistically win the game. Yeah, I just feel like this is good prep by Fernandez, and yeah, this could be Mickey Adams getting frustrated twice in a row.
I have one idea.
White. Could be.
I have one idea. Castle's queen side. Okay, he's played bishop d3 just to show my idea. Was the castle queen side, bishop b4, knight b1.
Yeah, bishop d3 is a good move, I think. A very flexible move, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted to go knight b1, right? Queen d5?
And then queen g3 was my idea.
Really? Interesting. Maybe queen d5 wasn't a very good move anyway. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I know absolutely nothing. What I know about this whole variation, you could write on the back of a postage stamp. But bishop d3 is a flexible move. You're keeping all the options open. Very sensible move by Adams. Again, refusing to panic. I would probably panic here as white. I'd like, you know, I've got really bad scores white against the kind of Fort Knox variation, which is very similar to, because I liked tactical game. The problem is this kind of shuts you down. Actually, I remember I played the Fort Knox against you in the 4NCL game.
You did. We had a quick draw.
We had a quick draw, but I think you got nothing from the opening, right? And I remember I lost you in the bishop g5 knight off, and I was like, right, I'm not going to go for this.
That again.
I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to play like a Fort Knox, just bore you to death. And it kind of worked, because I was able to get a comfortable draw.
And you beat me in the Alekines. Remember that?
That was true. That was a nice game. Yeah. Should we show that tactic? No, we can.
Okay, he's played knight b d7. I thought maybe another idea possibly for white, if bishop out to b4 was maybe now to go queen g3 and just ask black as to how he's going to defend his pawn.
Yeah, well, the comp is saying Adams is better. It's giving like Adams some kind of, or the eval bar, I should say, is saying white is better. So it clearly doesn't rate Fernandez's opening, but you know, it will give white an edge in these kind of positions because of the two bishops. It rates the two bishops. But in the long term, it's very hard to break down black. So I'd be interested to see over the next few moves how the game develops.
I think it'd be interesting to see what his next move will be, which side his king is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, either way is playable.
Yeah.
Certainly. I mean, the safe way is casting king's side. Interesting to see his psychology here, whether he decides to castle queen side and just go all in. You know, throw the chips into the centre of the table and say, come on, I'm all in. You know, because clearly black's going to castle king side, right? Doesn't look very likely that black will castle queen side, in my opinion.
I think black might just try and wait up a little bit in this sort of position. Maybe play knight to b6 to d5.
Yeah.
Exchange off a pair of minor pieces, perhaps.
I mean, knight bd7 is a very sensible move. It reminds me actually of this thing what I once read in New in Chess by Garry Kasparov. And I bore all my students to death with it. And I say it's the theory of the only moves. So in certain positions, there's moves that you will definitely play. Like here for white, you were saying whether you castle king side or queen side, it's not so clear, but you will probably definitely play bishop d3, so that's kind of an only move by Adams. But in this position as black, at some point you're going to put the knight on d7. So you might as well play the only moves first, because the theory is, it's a little bit like position in poker. You've got position, you've then got more information, you don't know where you're going to put the bishop on f8, you don't know whether you're going to put it on b4 or e7 or d6. You get more information from your opponent, then you know what to play, right?
Yes.
So that's some sort of logic behind it. I mean, you can even go g6 and bishop g7 here as black, but that's probably a dubious idea by me. Not the best.
Okay, let's move on to board 2.
By the way, we've just earned some more money because we just got, why don't you two participate?
Another pound for the kitty. Okay, so James Jackson playing black, Eldar Gasanov playing white.
Oh, so, wow, hang on a minute. This looks really familiar. I've got a story about this game.
It's got a story, okay. So we've got King's Indian, Knight c3, Bishop g7, e4, d6, Bishop e2. We actually saw this earlier in the tournament, didn't we, from somebody?
Yeah.
Castles, Bishop g5. Idea of trying to make the e5, the e5 or c5 breaks a little bit more difficult.
Right.
h6 by black. I think in our last one we might have seen c6 in that position.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember who it was. Bishop e3. So in some respects provoking the h6 move, so that now potentially there's a target over there on the king's side. Queen d2 and g4 perhaps, something along those lines. c5. Okay, so that's quite interesting that Jackson is offering up a pawn. You do that in the same-ish, I know, with f3 in this similar sort of.
Well, I think if you take queen a5,
taking queen a5, it's quite interesting to see. So queen a5 here, you give another pawn, and then you just take on e4. I would imagine.
Good play for black.
Very good play for black because of things like bishop takes c3.
Because a lot of people would.
And after pawn takes, you probably just play rook e8, do you? Probably just play rook e8.
Because a lot of people auto take back on c5 with a pawn, but I think that's something of a mistake. So the fact, as long as you know this queen a5 is possible, but I think somehow white's messed up the move order because black's got a good version of quite a familiar position.
So e6.
Yeah.
Knight f3, take, and now in this position black's played b5.
Because I had the exact same position as this in my very last tournament. I was playing against a guy from Belgium called Sim Mavraway, who's about 23 years of age, and I ended up getting a winning rook and pawn endgame.
This was your tournament in Belgium?
Yeah, and I drew it, so I messed it up. But in this position, it was exactly the same position with a black pawn at h7, and that makes a huge difference. Because with a pawn on, I don't know if you can show that same line.
Sure, I'll try. So,
let's
get rid of that. Okay, so we'll play. We'll have here bishop e3.
Yeah, c5, right? d5, e6,
knight f3.
Yeah.
Take, b5.
b5, exactly. So the best move for white in this position. I played this in Title Tuesday, and I played against Alexei Sarana from Russia's European. Well, he's no longer from Russia, but. He's European chess champion, and he's known to be one of the best prepared players at top level. He's beaten a lot of the good players, beaten a lot of the best players, and he blitzed out in this position. I thought, well, nobody knows this stuff, right? Nobody knows this c5 line. He blitzed out e5 here, which is a very strong move. So the idea is, if you take on c5, I go bishop
e5, yeah.
Take on e5, sorry. Bishop takes c5, hitting the rook. And so the best move is rook e8. So in touch, yeah, bishop takes b5. White's better, but the game continues. But instead of rook e8, I played in the Title Tuesday game. I was like, well, I'm not familiar with this. And I played, instead of rook e8, I went e4. And he just ended up taking the exchange and winning the game. I don't know if he... Yeah, something like that happened, and he ended up winning the game very easily.
Okay.
So I had this game in Ghent, right? So the guy played. So I played b5.
Yeah.
And in this position, after b5, e5, the reason my opponent, this guy Mavare, didn't play e5 is because he's worried about the reply knight g4. But after knight g4, bishop g5. Let's say, for example, queen a5 is played. There's a couple of very strong moves here for white. For example, simply the move e6 is very powerful. And if you take on e6, I take back with a pawn. And then after bishop takes e6, you could just take on d6, but that would run into bishop c3. You just simply castle. And the computer says that black is in big trouble. You know, queen d6 is coming, b5 is weak, even though you're pawn down. This is really bad for black. But instead of e6, also taking on d6 is very strong, right? So I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'm sure he must have prepared this game, must have seen my game against Serrana from Title Tuesday, because it's on ChessBase. All the Title Tuesday games are on ChessBase.
Yes.
This is one of the problems with preparing now, because you have to sift through like hundreds and hundreds of blitz games.
Okay, where would you like to go back to after?
Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make with this long-winded story is because I feel like White's played a bad move order here, because now you no longer have this option of e5 really, because if e5 in this game, now knight g4 would be a good response, because you no longer have bishop g5.
Don't have bishop g5, yeah.
So clearly this would be quite a good position for black. So I feel like Gasanov has messed up the opening here somehow. He shouldn't have allowed this possibility.
Let's just see some of the tactics related to why we don't just take on b5 in this position sort of automatically. Well, fairly obviously, if you take with the knight, then that's going to be a decent exchange for black. If you take with the bishop, then the same thing, unfortunately, is going to happen. Knight here, and then we have the check on a5.
Queen a5, yeah.
And then if you come back to defend, we'll take that one off, I think.
Good position for black, yeah.
And then we'll take on b5.
You do drop h6, but the problem is like rook e8.
Drop h6.
Rook e8, you're going to have to probably go back to e3, and now the white king is really stuck in the centre.
Maybe bishop a6?
Yeah, certainly bishop a6 would be played automatically. Knight d7 is coming, a very good position for...
If you went b1, I would probably just go queen c4.
So I feel like this is some sort of already like a minor win here for Jackson.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Gasanov doesn't seem to know this variation. But then again, I didn't know it when I played Serrano and was kind of shocked by how good his opening preparation is. It just goes to show in chess, having that opening knowledge is a huge advantage.
Thank you for the subscription, Peter Holland, online. So another problem that, in some ways, that White has in this position is black is simply threatening to win the e-pawn with b4. And you've got to do something about that.
I mean, what Maverey played, but with the pawn on h7, he took with the knight on b5. And then after knight e4, he went a knight d2, which obviously all these versions are quite better for black because of the pawn on h6 is quite actually a useful move, I would say, in this position, rather than a useful move for white. Because I don't really think queen d2 is generally like a problem for black in this kind of position. So he could play like this, but this is already at least equal for black.
What did you do in that particular game?
Well, apparently a move like rook e8 is good
e8.
here, but I went a6, which is also fine. He went back to a3. Of course, you can take on b2, but that's kind of risky. So I think I took on d2, and it was at least equal for black. Got a good Benoni kind of position.
Is perhaps another little small downside is that knight takes, queen takes, you have to maybe guard your h-pawn.
True. Rook e8's a decent move here.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, essentially, black's already won the opening battle for me.
Looks that way, because it looks like white's having a fair think in this position.
I think if you go bishop g5, you go back to bishop g5.
Yeah.
Right, h6. I mean, I'm not familiar with the theory.
Bishop e3 looks like it's...
Maybe bishop h4 is... I mean, maybe this is still theory. We could do the whole thing about cheating again and checking the theory. But
we could do... It's not really it's not really cheating. It'd be interesting to see what we have had in this position. We've had not too many...
Can you go back after bishop g5, h6?
Sure.
How many games is there played after bishop g5? Bishop e3 is common, right?
Yeah,
so after c5... c5 is not, e5 is more common. c5,
d5,
white normally goes
yeah.
d5, e6, right?
E6.
Maybe h3 is a good move here. Yeah, or queen d2. I think knight f3 is slightly a bad move order. Slightly inferior move order.
And now after ed, maybe ed.
ed would also be better, yeah.
ED
So
might
slightly
be.
inferior line. I think cd is something of a slight mistake. b5 already, black is at least equal.
Found a few games here though, with bishop takes b5, knight takes e4,
Right.
knight e4,
It might be
queen
Patz's though.
a5,
Might be Patz's.
queen d2, queen b5,
Right.
and knight takes d6. Ah, okay.
Yeah, but this shouldn't be a problem for black. Queen b2. Yeah, anything's good. Nah, I mean, this b5's good, Adam. Trust me. You don't need to argue this one. Let's move on.
I think you might be losing a pawn as black here, actually. I'll take on
Comp eval says equal.
Okay, so queen b2, bishop b2, rook b1. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
What are you going to do? Come on. I'm not giving up. This b1.
Sounds like a Kate Bush song. Don't give up. Why not check?
Okay, king e2. Oh, okay. Not be good. A little bit careful with my king here, haven't I? and then you're going to go maybe rook d8, are you?
I mean, it should be okay for black. It just feels like I don't know, but it just feels like, you know, I'll stick to my theory that d5 is already at least equal for black.
Okay. That could happen though, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, white has, you know, white's under a little bit of pressure here. He's got to actually, you know, I would feel uncomfortable in a Gasanov situation that you are, you know, you're faced with this very active move b5.
So, ball number 3 is Kanya Morala versus Hargreave. d4, d5, c4, e6. Knight f3, knight f6, g3. Take bishop g7, bishop g2.
Yeah.
Catalan. Knight d7, castles, rook b8, a4, a6, a5. Bishop d6. So white's given up a pawn, but he's almost always in the Catalan. He wins that pawn back, doesn't he? Unless black takes some.
Not always, but in the Catalan, well, often you do give up the pawn like long term, but yeah, I mean, if you want to win back,
if you want to win it back,
you generally
queen
can.
C2,
It's true.
Queen takes
you know.
pawn, or queen a4, and queen takes pawn. Okay, he's played it like this. Knight b5, a takes b5. What's that little symbol by a takes b5? En passant. Okay.
Just information for those people who are very
Knight takes b6. Okay, so double isolated c pawns now. Queen c2.
Just
That's
going back a minute,
little
why not
bit
e4? Like here in this position, can't I just go e4
Why
here?
don't you just take on c4?
Or take on c4, yeah. Is e4 possible though? I mean, I guess if you take, I trade and go bishop d7 and bishop b5 quickly, but that's also quite promising for white. e4 with a threat of e5 feels like quite a decent Catalan for white actually. But I mean, what he's played is not stupid as well.
Move, hasn't it, somewhere?
Yeah.
Maybe it could go to b4 actually.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why he played.
Why he played queen c2?
Why he played
really?
queen c2 if he can just take on c4 in this position?
Oh, you mean the old tactic?
The old tactic here.
Maybe didn't see it.
Pretty sure he saw it. There's obviously there's a reason that this is bishop b5. Yeah, possibly bishop b5.
The queen goes back to c2,
Queen
and
back to
eventually
C2.
you go rook d1 and e4, or rook e1 and e4. It should be quite nice for white. I quite like white's position because the pawn structure's not great for black on the queen side.
Yeah.
Weak pawn on a6,
I quite
long
like it for
term.
white as well. You can maybe at some point just calmly swap off the light square bishops with bishop f1.
This is as good as it gets for white in the Catalan. You know, this is as good as you can get. So,
Okay.
but Harry's gone for a slightly unusual line. I think that's often Harry's policy is to go for slightly, you know, try to avoid the opponent's preparation.
Look at what happens. It's quite funny because now he goes back with his queen. I think
Right,
he does it
right.
now.
So like queen a4 check.
Rook b5.
So you get this tactic anyway that you were advocating.
Takes c4.
Apparently, I mean, some move like even queen a8 might be possible, right? Just defending a6. You're not worried about queen b5 because I just take that and I should be okay. Or bishop d5. Those are probably the two moves I would consider here. Or queen c8, I guess, is also.
He's played queen a8.
He has played queen a8. Yeah, it should be okay because the problem that white has is generally in these kind of positions with a king, you know, king on g1 and the bishop on g2, the fianchetto bishop. If you play knight e1 and you exchange light square bishops, you slightly weaken your own king in the long term. So it's not considered to be an attempt to gain advantage. In fact, you may even end up being worse. Yeah, I might just trade on g2 there, Adam, to be honest. I'll just chop immediately.
Chop him off.
And then, you know, as soon as I get that chance, I'm going to do that.
And then castle.
And then castle, and I'm very comfortable here as black. At least equal, I would say. you know, because I've also got e4 under control. And how do you, what plan have you got as white? If you go f3 at e4, then you're weakening yourself slightly. And also black can very quickly play c5. So let's just say, whose move is it? It's white's move. Let's say you played a move, weird looking move like f3.
Would you go c5 now?
Probably go c5 and just open up the position. I feel it feels like a very comfortable position for black actually. So queen a8, it already feels like Harry's at least equalised. And I feel like Taran might get punished today by the goddess Chiasa, because I think we've already discussed this. When you take quick draws, when you're better, like you did yesterday, what generally tends to happen is the goddess Chiasa punishes you the next game, or sometime later in the tournament, and you end up losing because she feels offended.
Angry.
You anger the goddess Chiasa, according to Nigel Shorten's book.
So apparently queen takes b5 is the top engine move in this position, which doesn't really feel like...
Which kind of, I think it suggests that basically white is certainly not better, therefore white is just trying to equalise. But now maybe you can go for some kind of in-game stuff and claim... I don't know. Maybe now move the knight because you're not so concerned about bishop f4. I don't know.
Like bishop f4.
Yeah.
Because if you take, then your c pawn becomes a bit of a problem. And if you, let's say, I don't know, let's say maybe king e7 is the best move here, and perhaps something like rook c1 or rook a1. Maybe rook c1
looks good. Yeah. Some slight pressure. Nothing special, but
probably nothing too special. Maybe knight d5 here. Okay, doesn't like knight d5.
It probably takes an e4. It's not allowing. It doesn't want to allow the rook to c7. Yeah, I mean it's nothing. Yeah, interesting. The best move is just to take, but it kind of feels like that's an admission that you've got nothing from the opening. But would he do that? I think actually that's probably the sensible, practical choice, because if you keep the queens on, it can end up, you can end up getting into trouble as white. So I wouldn't be surprised to see queen b5. But a lot of it is to do with how much you understand that you're worse, right? Or that you feel that you're worse to make that decision.
Or you could be becoming worse.
Or could be becoming worse, exactly.
Okay, so born up against Matthew. d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, c6, e3, bishop f5, knight c3, e6. Solid choice. Knight h4, bishop e4, f3, bishop g6. So this is all, I think, fairly well known stuff.
Yeah, I mean the idea of bishop e4, I think, it looks a bit weird to allow a tempo on the bishop, but the idea is you're removing the retreat square for the knight on f3 in some scenarios. So, I don't really understand it, to be honest, but apparently this is played, yeah. And generally,
there's a little idea that when knight takes h6. Knight takes g6, h takes g6 happens. Then when black plays a piece to the dark diagonal towards h2, then maybe h3 is not. Somehow there's a little bit more of a weakness. On the
whereas g3 could just be played in that scenario if I hadn't gone f3.
Yeah, exactly. Bishop d2, but I don't play this, so I don't really know what I'm talking about. b5, bishop e2, a6, knight g6, hg6, queen c2, and knight bd7. And that's where we are up to. So white, although those pawns have advanced on the queen side, I think white might seriously also consider castling on that side of the board.
Well, that's very typical in these kind of lines, that white will castle queen side, yeah. And but that will allow c5 opening up the c file, so it often gets very sharp. Yeah. So I mean, I guess like just immediately castling seems like quite a natural move to me. And let's say I played rook c8. I mean, again, I feel like Wadsworth has prepared this very, very well. I
King
mean,
B1?
yeah. So King b1. So the question now for Black is: do you play c5 immediately, or do you somehow develop your bishop, say to d6, which also looks very logical.
But quite often here there is not really a threat of taking on h2, so white might just ignore that.
Yeah, yeah, you possibly quite right.
Not quite sure what he would play, but e4 perhaps comes into consideration.
Right. Maybe I'll take your pawn anyway, call your bluff.
Which way would you like to take it?
Take with a rook, maybe? Take with a rook? I don't know. I mean, I admit that it's probably not a very good idea here, but... no, the engine hates it, yeah.
Take and
yeah, I'm losing so much time.
Look h1,
okay. I didn't trust you, but as soon as the engine said it was no good. Okay, yeah, it's very sharp. But again, you feel like Wadsworth has prepared this very well. He seems to be a very well prepared player. Borna is thinking. He's in the tank. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a 0-1 in this game. It feels like the sort of game where Black can counterattack on the queen side. And it feels like Wadsworth is very self-confident. I don't know if you want to move on to another game.
Sure, of course.
What about the Lan Yao, Jonah Willow game?
Look at that one. Okay, so knight c3, knight c6. We had this one early in the tournament as well, didn't we? With knight takes c6 and e5.
Oh, right, yeah, that's right. That was the Grieve Bates game, right? Which apparently is like the hot theory.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Knight db5 also looks like a move. I think that's also theory as well, right?
Yeah, knight db5 and then bishop f4. Bishop e3 straight away seems fine. Bishop b4. So Black's now asking the question of what's going to happen about that central pawn. And White just defends it with bishop d3.
It's not a very good theory by White. I could be wrong, but it feels like something's gone slightly wrong. She's played a slight, unusual sideline. Yeah, d5 is already a very natural move. It's interesting that he refused to go d5.
Yes, this is a very looks like an extremely unusual.
But that's what I mean in the Taimanov. You don't necessarily want the, somehow the position feels wrong, for White. Like d5 is just already feeling like the equalizes at least.
And now she exchanged on c6, which, I mean, I would definitely be thinking here about putting my knight on f5.
Right, but then not d5 would happen, and
d5, yeah.
d5 oh no, knight g7 and knight bishop
g7
h7
and bishop h6 probably.
Yeah, so probably you castle first, right? Instead of d5.
Castle. Yeah.
And then you're ready for d5. So I think this is what she would have been concerned about. That Black is just going to potentially take on c3 and go d5 very quickly.
Take on c3, yeah. There is a little. Oh no, there's not. Yes.
Maybe there's even a bishop c3, bc3, knight e4 idea.
Bishop c3, bc3.
I don't think it quite works.
And the point is after bishop takes e4, d5.
Yeah, but the problem is queen g4 here. My idea was bishop d3, e4.
Right.
But I think queen g4 here is a good response. And then if g6 is... Well, no, maybe it's not. Maybe just go bishop d3. It's a load of rubbish. Well, also you could take on d5 or play bishop c5. There's probably lots of winning moves.
I'm quite tempted by knight h6 check.
Right. Possible as well, actually. Yeah, probably also good. Maybe the best move, yeah. Yeah, very good.
Just take on d5.
I was getting too creative there. I was channeling my inner Fernandez. But maybe just taking d5 in that line, Adam. So I think that's kind of what C would have been reluctant to face. So she's gone for.
Don't really
This all kind of looks a bit weird. All this, what's he's doing here?
I would have thought he would be wanting to take that knight anyway.
Yeah.
D5, F3, Bishop E6. Black looks comfortable here.
Black looks very comfortable, although there is some logic of what he's doing. He's getting the 2 bishops. Rook E8, Queen H4, Queen E7. I mean, I feel like his last 2 moves are a bit weird as well. Like, if you go back, I mean, instead of Rook E8, maybe there were alternatives. I don't know what. Maybe I would have just taken on, like here, I could have just taken on E4 actually. You know, we're talking about forcing moves, right? And then maybe play something.
You're going to be a little bit careful here, have you? No. Bishop G5, you can meet with Queen B6.
I don't know what. I kind of feel like.
Knight G4?
Yeah. But,
and then Bishop C5, I imagine.
Yeah, but then Rook E8.
H3.
Oh, and Queen A5. Queen A5.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Let's just show that's quite interesting. So Knight G4.
Bishop
G attacks the bishop.
Yeah.
Bishop drops back a different way, then we'll probably give the check on B6, I would think. So Bishop C5, Rook E8. And I wanted just to play H3, give my bishop some room, but then Danny comes up with this clever move, Queen A5 check.
Queen A5. Just Queen
Sorry,
A5.
Queen A5.
Checking the bishop.
Checking the bishop. I was getting one move ahead of myself, because after bishop here, we then have.
I do that in games sometimes. I like write down the next move that I'm going to play, right? And I'm like, oh.
And king there, and then
get so excited. Yeah, I mean, you can move the knight. You could probably move the knight here,
into E3,
or knight E. Yeah, knight E3 is a good move.
Knight E3,
you can go to C4.
Jump around a bit. Reminds me of a song.
Or maybe even, This looks okay for black. I don't know, but I feel like Rook E8 immediately. What he's done is slightly suboptimal, in my opinion, but still okay for black. So I don't think Jonah's got any serious issues here, but the game is actually very sharp actually, because you know the long term White has a lot of weaknesses. You know, White's got weakness on C3, A3. The whole queen side is potentially a weakness, but White has a potential attack with the 2 bishops. Maybe a move like Rook E1 could come into consideration at some point. Either Rook,
like right now.
Yeah. Or Bishop G5.
G5 would be the other one.
Or King H1 actually. King H1 feels like a good move.
King H1 just to give the bishop some, to take it off the diagonal for any sort of, because there might come a point after, let's say, Bishop G5 at some stage, like perhaps even now, Queen C5 check gains me enough time for me to, well actually I can't quite move my knight here, which is a bit of a shame, but I might throw in pawn takes pawn first and then move my knight.
Can I take on F6 there, intermediate move?
Take on F6 as an intermediate move. Yes, indeed you can. I take your bishop.
And then go Queen G5.
Queen F8.
And then just take back.
And then just take back.
Oh no, this is good for black. Because
somehow good for black. Because of...
maybe King H8 and you end up losing a piece because the Bishop E5 I've got F6.
That's annoying, isn't it? Yeah. King H8 and the point is Bishop E5 F6.
I think it's very double-edged at the moment. I don't think Black's played the best moves over the last couple of moves, but it's still very double-edged, and you know, you don't always have to play the absolute top engine move, right? You know, we're not engines, we're human. I'll do my Elephant Man impression in a minute. Have you ever seen that film?
I haven't, no.
It was released in 1980. It was made by David Lynch, who was famous for Twin Peaks. It's about this guy called Joseph Merrick, who was like the Elephant Man in the Victorian era. It's a great film, actually. At some point, he says, I'm not an elephant man. I'm a human being." Annie Hopkins is in it as well. John Hurt plays the Elephant Man.
That impression, I'm afraid, is a bit lost on me. But,
well, if you haven't seen the film,
I'll go and see. I'll watch the film and then.
Always so very kind to me. Sorry, couldn't get through a whole commentary session without doing some impressions, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, the impressions is one of the reasons that everybody's here. So Pert versus Claridge Hansen. We'll go to board 6. And got a rook on a rather odd square up there on a7. But okay, let's see how this one came about. d4, knight f6, knight f3, e6, c4, d5, a6, take, bishop g5, bishop e6, take, queen b3. Okay, and that's how the rook got to a7. Solves that little mystery. And now the first question, of course, is why can't white just take on d5? And that would be my thought. And the answer is queen d8, I imagine. Because the point is now that if you... Well, maybe it's not queen d8.
e4.
And then I thought c6.
And then queen b6.
Queen b6. And then I was thinking,
Oh, you can take on
e4.
and then, yeah, it looks super scary.
But perhaps there's... Well, perhaps there isn't anything better.
I think queen d8 looks
queen
like
d8,
that's a move I would consider.
e4, c6.
Yeah.
Queen b6 looks forced.
Yeah, but then I take on d5, and as you say, I start getting all this play with like bishop b4 check.
Right,
And,
yeah. So like this one straight away now.
Something
yeah?
like that, yeah. Bishop
Giving
b4.
that silly old rook in the up there, and then just getting on with it.
Don't like this for white. Your king's going to be in the
Big
centre.
initiative. Big initiative here.
Yeah, it looks scary.
It does, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not his style to start speculating like that.
So he's gone h4. Okay.
Very aggressive. Continuing what I said is his policy in this tournament to play very aggressive chess. To be honest, I've been impressed with Nick's play in this tournament, even though, well, certainly his opening play has been very good, but sometimes somehow he's gone drift in the middle game, which I think is due to rust.
So yeah, one of the reasons he's done this is that this h4 g3 is actually to play. The point is, I guess, revealed after the next move, queen d8, is that he now goes bishop h3.
Right.
So he's aiming to exchange off that bishop with his bishop.
Right.
Perhaps perhaps in this position he was thinking, I'm going to exchange it off with my knight, which is the reason for h6.
Or maybe he was afraid of the move g5, right? He'd seen too many Keyfarkle games before.
g5 by black.
No, I don't think so. I think h4 is some kind of preparation.
Bishop h3, bishop d6, and white is thinking, well, if it is part of his preparation, he's used quite a lot of time over his preparation. He's used over half an hour already.
Can you take here and go e4, or is that just a bad idea?
Take here and go e4. Okay, so take e4. And
But
I could play super solid with c6.
Also, you can hit the knight, can't you? You can castle and hit the knight.
Castles gains a tempo on the knight.
Which is kind of annoying. I hadn't seen that idea.
And if you drop the knight back,
maybe knight c6 is a
knight
problem.
c6 going after the d pawn. That looks really sensible, yeah.
So
Also, actually, I think possibly even queen f6 is also a little bit annoying.
yeah, generally. So my idea of going e4 is probably wrong, I think. I mean, you could take and go king f1 to g2, or go king f1 immediately.
King f1 to g2.
Because obviously you don't want a castle dropping a bishop on h3, right? So that's one thing you don't do, is you don't castle here. That'd be a bit embarrassing.
Oh, so you mean just not take on e6, just go king f1?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Although, I don't know if your rook is great on h3 if they take on h3, but at some point. But
that was a question, that.
I don't think he will take on h3, but king f1 to...
I mean, that was a question for this position, wasn't it? In some respects, is the black could have done it here.
Oh, right, yeah. But I think it's structurally, I think black wants white to take on e6, because then when you castle, you're involving the rook. You want to have something to do with your pieces, right? And also you're over-protecting d5, which frees black up then for, say, playing knight d7, c5. The old famous maxim of Aaron Nimzovich, which was over-protection, from his great book, My System, which has been trashed by modern experts, but
Some people still like it.
Mm.
Are you somebody who
certainly was original, wasn't it?
Are you somebody who sort of like subscribes to the classics, Adam?
Yeah, I do. I do like them. I'm not hugely in love with my system actually, but
Right.
some of the
You mean
ones-
your system? Or,
I mean the book, my system.
but I mean, do you think? I mean, because it seems to me these days that younger players, they get good by playing, thousands of games online, and they're not really familiar with, like,
They're not. No,
classical
no,
chess.
I'm astonished at the lack of
Erudition,
knowledge that
young
players do have about chess history and
Yeah.
players from even like somebody like Kasparov or Karpov, and
Really?
it doesn't even go back as far as that.
They'd certainly be struggling with the James Pratt quiz. We still got some of the questions from that.
left my questions at home. I left the questions at home.
no.
I hope I haven't lost.
Maybe
them.
I
That
could
would be a
do some.
disaster.
Shall I do some chess history questions as well?
What's going on? Blair Chess. Hi, Blair Chess. I tuned in for the impressions and maybe the odd musical interlude.
Oh yeah, should I do a song? If somebody can nominate a song, I'll sing a song.
Okay. Anybody?
Getting a bit bored.
Anybody in the chat?
Or anyone in the audience. This whole
Oh,
audience is so quiet.
fine audience.
We should kick them out.
No, we shouldn't.
No, I'm only kidding.
We've got some prizes to give away today.
We've got some prizes to give away. Yeah.
A prize.
This Stanley's Impossible quiz.
No, that's
We're
happening
going to do that later.
later.
That's from 7 p.m. Yeah, you come along to my impossible quiz, guys.
Marvellous quiz.
7 p.m.
And see if you can beat
in
the
here
top
tonight.
score. See if you
Danny's
can beat the
Impossible
top score.
quiz. Along with some like master classes, or is it just the quiz? Or have you not decided yet?
Well, that is the master. The master class is the quiz.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I'm doing like a quiz tonight. So it's going to be like positions. Set a quiz with chess positions. You have to nominate the best move, and then tomorrow I'm going to be showing off some of my games from that tournament in Ghent.
Okay. So I've just had a quick look at the evaluation bar here, and it's
Right.
really liking White's position. So we had the position here, and we were thinking, well, which side's Mickey going to castle? He did castle on the queen side, and now Daniel, I think, has come up with a rather peculiar idea of playing a5.
Right, you don't like this. Well, he's going. You know what I was saying about going all in. It seems like he's going all in here with this whole idea of softening up the queen side.
So-
And it has got some logic behind it. That you want to go like a3, weaken the c3 square, and somehow use the c3 square in a tactical way.
Yeah.
So it's quite a scary plan for White to face. But obviously, Adams is not the kind of guy who's going to get.
Scared.
No, exactly. He's not going to get perturbed. He'll just carry on trying to find the best move, right? But we don't know what the best move is here, but he will try and find it. Hopefully he'll do a better job than me.
He had a long think about A4.
Did he?
Yeah.
I had a long think. Yeah.
But A4 has some logic behind it because your king
Yeah,
is...
it does.
A lot of people, they castle very quickly because they're concerned about the possibility of getting mated. But if we think about his position, White has no immediate threats in the centre, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
So at some point he may do later in the game, but how does White generate immediate threats against the black position? Yes, maybe the computer's saying that White is clearly better, but that's the computer. The human level, it's not that obvious. It looks a bit scary for White to me.
I think I would play a3 here as White.
Yeah, and if knight d5, let's say I go a3, knight b d5. Maybe you can just drop the bishop back to d2, right?
What is it about taking?
I've had a nomination, by the way, Ness and Dormer. Could do
We've
Ness
had a
and Dormer.
couple, yeah. We've had somebody said some opera. Always look on the bright side of life.
I don't like that song. Because also it's a blatant lie for starters. Because sometimes
really
you just
part of
can't
your
look on the bright side of life.
Oh, you make up that one.
It's from the film Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah. Bishop d2 is obviously
Sorry,
quite...
Monty Python, Life of Brian. Life of Brian, not Monty Python.
Anything about bishop d2 is you do leave d4 under threat, so queen b6 now will carry 2 threats of queen takes d4 and bishop takes a3. I was thinking of taking on d5 here and just seeing which way you were going to take me back.
When I looked at that game earlier, that Cambridge game, it's a little bit like this. It's very double-edged. He has gone a3, by the way.
Right.
I think this is what Fernandez is aiming for. Very double-edged, sharp position. And to be honest, that game, I looked at that game, it seemed like both players were a little bit nervous. There was some shaky mistakes at some point you wouldn't expect from players of that quality. So maybe this is what Fernandez is gearing for, that kind of scenario. But obviously, ultimately, Adams won it. So can we see a bit more from Fernandez in this game, right? Queen e2, good move, Adam. Yeah, intending c4, right? Even I'm starting to dislike the black position in this particular position. But whether you got anything better.
That's where we're up to. So he did play this a3. I think that's actually quite reasonable, is to take on d5 if knight d5 here. Because you take back with one of your pawns, then you give me some other options. C takes, of course, opens the diagonal. E takes opens the e file. I think I probably will play rook e1. And g5 at some point, force you to castle and then start attacking you.
By the way, you're absolutely right, everything you said. Apparently white has got a big edge.
Well, that's only, I could see that from the bar.
Yeah, I know. But it's saying already plus
like
2
I'm
point
genius.
something, plus 2 point something, which is already, according to engines on a higher depth, is already a decisive and winning advantage. So what black should have done potentially, if you go back a little bit,
Sure. Instead of where would you?
well, instead of a5 is a kind of a weird plan in the Scandinavian. And the move that I was advocating, bishop b4, is apparently the best way for black.
Bishop b4 here.
That's what I would have played, and apparently that is the best move.
Only slight difference to what we looked at just before that was with the knight on d7. Of course, queen d5 isn't
Exactly.
an
So
option.
maybe knight d7 itself wasn't optimal, but
So perhaps here we move just.
yeah,
move the knight
white is
away
better
somewhere.
anyway.
I
White
don't
is
like
better
that.
anyway. But in the game, after a3, you're absolutely right, big edge for white, and Fernandez under quite a lot of pressure. I kind of hope Adams wins this. I would feel a bit sorry for him if he was to draw 2 games with white and against low rated opposition. I think he would start to feel a little bit
Sad.
annoyed. Yeah, annoyed, exactly, a little bit sad. So maybe I'm a little bit, I'm kind of cheering for the older generation, like myself, to maintain the status quo against these young upstarts like Fernandez. Or maybe I'm just jealous of Fernandez. He's going to be a British champion. But no, I think, even though black is worse, he's kind of got what he wanted, which is
I don't think.
a sharp position, right? No, you don't agree?
I don't think he's got what he wanted here.
At all,
But
no?
I just think.
But it's not like White's had to make spectacular moves to get
hasn't,
this
no,
winning
he
position,
hasn't.
right?
He
All he's
hasn't.
played is natural developing moves, bishop d3, g4. I mean, it's not exactly, so this is not exactly a great advert for the Scandinavian if all you have to do is make natural developing moves to get a winning position. But yeah, that's often what chess is. Chess is a simple game.
That's a very good suggestion in the chat. You could sing some ABBA Fernando, but change it to Fernandez. How about that?
I'm getting exposed by my lack of musical knowledge.
Okay. I mean, like, what else does black play in this position? Probably some bishop move. Like bishop e7 gives him at least his castling option. But
Is Fernando the one where they're up on the mountaintop and they have that video where they're all on the piano and they're kind of,
don't know.
I think it is. Yeah, they're all. It's like a Christmas kind of song. But yeah, bishop e7. We're coming up to Christmas quite soon, I think. Or maybe Mickey by Tony Basil if Adams wins. Yeah. Hey Mickey, you're so fine. Hey Mickey, you blow my mind. Oh, hey Mickey. It's It's one of those terrible songs that got to number 1. Yeah, this all looks good for white, doesn't it?
Like here in this position, maybe I could consider a move like bishop c1. My idea is I want to play g5, and then I want to meet knight d5 with knight e4, keep some pieces on the board, and then play c4 with some space.
Right, right.
Perhaps I could take on d4 though. No, can I take on d4?
Why not?
I thought it might go bishop back to e3. Then you have to go queen d8, bishop somewhere, queen c7. It's a bit dodgy, doesn't it?
Yeah, but a pawn is... Well, you've always got bishop h7, I guess. You could... maybe queen d4, I'd just go bishop h7, right?
Yeah, bishop h, okay, that
Oh,
one
it actually already
good.
thinks it's losing.
So why does it lose?
Maybe it just likes bishop b5, queen c5, bishop e3, and you crash through on c6.
Bishop b5, sorry, say again?
Bishop b5 here.
Queen c5, and then bishop e3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll try it. Should we try it?
Let's just check.
Knight b5 also possible.
I thought knight b5, perhaps. Knight b5, you have to go queen d8. And then maybe bishop f4. It's tempting.
Was knight d5.
Knight d5
block.
defends, yeah, okay.
Bishop e3, queen d8. Somebody's saying in the chat bishop e3, maybe they're checking the engines, yeah.
Bishop e3, queen d8, and the follow-up is...
How did we get this again?
that was just bishop c1 in this position.
So after a4,
That was a3, bishop e7, and bishop c1.
bishop c1. See what the computer's saying. Takes a while.
Queen takes d4, loses. I'm just trying to work out why. I mean, there's lots and lots of options. g5 is another option to shift the knight somewhere. Play against the queen. Knight b5 is very tricky. You have to go.
He has gone bishop e7, by the way.
Has he? Okay.
I don't think Adams... Why would Adams go bishop c1, by the way? What was your idea behind bishop c1?
My idea was I want to play g5, but if I go g5 now and knight d5, then you've got to decide. You know, you've got to give your bishop essentially.
Right.
Whereas if you had your bishop on c1, I could go knight e4.
But still knight e4 would be better for white here anyway, right?
Right. Yeah, knight e4 anyway.
Anyway, because you've still got c4 coming in.
And if this
Presumably
one gets
taking on
exchanged,
g5
then we'll
is very
just take
risky.
that with the pawn, I imagine. And the advantage is still there.
Yeah, but anyway, oh yeah, Fernando goes, do you hear the drums, Fernando? Do do do. Do do do. I could sing Maria from West Side Story. Or maybe we'll do that later in the tournament.
Okay, so bishop e7 and probably the best choice. Just to, I think he probably realised that knight d5 we just take it off and just you know, just it's just going to allow white to increase the space advantage with c4.
Sorry, say that again.
He probably realised here knight d5, just take it and play c4, and it's going to make.
But would you be concerned about taking? Maybe I think knight d5, bishop d2, right? Well, you'd be concerned as black that you would take.
Yeah.
Right. And if you take with a pawn? Oh, but there's
one?
bishop b5 check. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I think if you could take with this is one of the things you'd probably rather have the pawn on a6.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you could go cd5 here, but cd5, bishop b5 is looking suspicious. I played a Scandinavian Hastings tournament recently. I mean, a friend of mine, Ellie Gamal, was like, yeah, play this, you know, she's going on about the Scandi, as she calls it. And, yeah, I played it, and I was just, about 30 moves in, I was looking at it, and I was just completely lost already. You know, what am I, how do people play this stuff, right? You're just giving away the two bishops, like... Yeah, I mean, you've got to be comfortable to suffer, right? You got to be comfortable to play a position where you're suffering.
So, okay, this one has developed interestingly from where we got to.
Where did you get to?
We got to the point of b5.
Yeah, so it basically went down the way you thought with knight d6.
His piece, that's the queen check a5.
Sorry?
There was a queen check on a5.
Yes, but he had to sacrifice a piece to get there. Yeah.
That must have lost the piece.
So we had knight takes e4, knight takes e4, queen a5,
Yeah.
queen d2, queen b5, knight d6.
Yeah, but you should take on b2. I mean, queen a6 is a terrible move. I mean, what was he doing? You know, I mean,
I don't think
why are
it's
you
a
letting
terrible
white?
move.
Why are you letting black off? Why are you letting white off? You take on b2. You know, and do this bishop line with bishop c3, which we looked at earlier. I mean, come on. It's just, you know, what is queen a6? It's a very strange move. People are just giving this Gastonov presents.
What about also in this position? Could I maybe just go rook c1?
Yeah, but maybe now I go bishop a6, keep your king in the centre.
Keep the king in the centre. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually.
Or maybe knight d7, I don't know. I mean, but I just feel like it's a pawn. You should take a pawn, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me why you wouldn't take a pawn. But it's gone queen a6. You're probably right. It's probably not a terrible move. It just feels wrong to me. It's now queen e2. Black is thinking.
So black could take the pawn now.
He could certainly, or just immediately take the pawn. Bishop b2 actually feels like the correct move, right? I still think, I mean, black is
He
still
can't take
doing
it
quite
right
well.
this moment. He's got to swap the queens off.
Oh, sorry, yeah, queen b2, I'm blundering again.
Swap the queens off first and then take on b2.
But that's already a bit of a problem, the fact that you're allowing the king to e2. This doesn't look
yes,
very
this
good.
is that. So suddenly this king is actually extremely safe here, and white is well, he's not immediately regaining the pawn after bishop g7, but I would think here if I was just to play something like rook b7, looks like quite a tempting move, or rook hc1, or rook hd1 possibly. I was anticipating this knight's going to go to a6.
Right, but you know what I mean, just in general, why are you even allowing this position when you could have taken on b2, got a much better version of all this, and instead you're going for this weird move, queen a6, I don't get it. You know, I just feel like already white is over the worst now. You know, whereas before white probably had to fight to equalise. Yeah, I mean, I don't like this position for black now. It's very easy to make white's moves as well, you know. Like everything's really obvious for white now. It's not so obvious what black should play, in my opinion. I mean, you could play me like queen b7.
Yes.
Which is probably not a bad move actually. Like, but yeah,
Perhaps rook d1 now.
this is very similar to another line in the Benoni actually. This is very similar to another line in the Benoni, which is supposed to be very slightly better for white. But no, how can you not take on b2 there? It's just like criminal. You know, maybe I'm just going for sound bites, but it just seems shocking to me that you wouldn't take on b2 there, Adam.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like earlier.
So, yeah, I mean, I still think that you need to give perhaps here a little bit more thought to this position. Bishop b2, rook b1, bishop c3 check, and I think I'll play my king d1. Will I play my king to d1? Or will I just go knight d2?
So this is actually the best move after queen e2, by the way. Well, this is, I feel like this is, oh yeah, exactly, yeah. But this is fine for black. This is fine for black. It should be fine. I mean, even if you lose c5, right, you're going to get loads of play. Like, say you went like bishop a6, knight takes, knight d7.
Yeah, I was not so interested maybe at this moment about trying to grab your pawn. I was more thinking I might play something like reverse, like this.
Ah, right, yeah.
Just keep my pieces coordinated. I guess you can go bishop d4 perhaps.
But I would calculate this, and I would think, you know, this is good play for black. I don't know, you know, what the best move is, but it feels like this is the way I should go, right? You know, like maybe not bishop a6, right?
Bishop takes h6 in that line after bishop takes b2.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, also possible.
I don't. Oh, I see. Here, you mean?
Also possible.
Also possible.
Looks a bit suspicious to me.
Yes,
Isn't there check and then?
Take.
It just feels wrong, right?
That one does. Yeah. Feel a bit wrong.
But I think in the game, apparently the best move after Queen E2 is to play, which is I think is a very hard move to spot.
Queen D6. No.
Rook D8 is the best move here.
Rook D8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is still equal, but I think that's what I say. You're putting yourself under pressure to find Rook D8, which I think is a tough move to find, because your Rook's gone to C8, and you're coming away from the C5 board. I think he's put himself under pressure as well. I don't like the way Jackson's played this at all. I can't believe he hasn't taken on B2. I'm starting to get angry now.
Don't get angry. Don't get angry. Okay, we'll be going for an hour and a half. We'll take a short break.
Have a little break. I need a break.
And we'll be back shortly.
Okay. Cheers.
online and live at the venue. And just to round up what we were saying about the Gassenov-Jackson game, Jackson exchanged the queens and just played knight a6.
Yeah.
Rather than grabbing the pawn on b2, he obviously felt uncomfortable that there was just going to be too much initiative there for white.
Sure.
But we think that probably white has quite a nice position here. Something like perhaps rook d1.
Sure.
Just to say that this d pawn is going to be a very, very big nuisance to black.
Yeah.
I mean, even this, the same bishop takes pawn and rook b1, and I imagine just push the pawn probably.
I hate to keep repeating it, but for me, Jackson, or Action Jackson as I call him, that's another great nickname, right?
Action Jackson, okay.
He's got a bit of action. Have you ever seen that film, Action Jackson?
I haven't seen a lot of films, Danny.
I'm
becoming fairly
I'm
clear.
like Barry Norman of chess, right?
You are the Barry Norman of chess, yeah.
I believe it was a film for the 1980s starring Carl Weathers. By the way, I was watching RoboCop last night. Have you ever seen RoboCop? Has anyone ever seen RoboCop? Great film. You're coming with me, dead or alive.
Is that like that? 1980?
1980s, yeah. Yeah, it was something like 86. And anyway, so we're going a little bit off the beaten track. Actually, there was another nickname for Roberson. Peter Roberson is a famous English chess player, or, relatively famous. That's his nickname, RoboCop.
Charlie, the chess cat has seen Action Jackson.
Oh, have you seen it? Oh, brilliant! Yeah. A great film. I think it stars Carl Weathers, who was in the Rocky films. He played Apollo Creed. He was also in Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Have you seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary on Netflix?
No.
There's a lot of stuff you haven't seen.
No, I don't have Netflix.
No, that's a good. Yeah, Carl Weathers. Yeah, great actor. Yeah, he was in Predator, and
he's in Rocky, isn't he?
He's in Rocky as Apollo Creed. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that one.
Okay. But anyway, yeah, I think unfortunately, I think James Jackson's not played that correctly. As I said, I think he should have gone for Queen B2. Should have been some moves should be automatic. I feel like the stronger you get, the easier it is to make moves automatically. And I feel like Queen B2 was a move that you should really, at this level, you should be playing it automatically. You should be like taking back the pawn. And plays himself in the rest of the development. I wasn't aware of it. It's not a show I'm very familiar with. Sounds a little bit like Parks and Recreation, right? Arrested Development, but yeah, there's also a band, wasn't there, called Arrested Development, maybe?
There was.
Yeah, Queen A8. So Queen A8.
So this is where we got to, Queen A8 in this position, and Taran actually played Queen A4,
right?
Going after the A pawn.
Greedy.
And interesting here. So Harry just left it, castled. He took it, and now he's played Queen D5, centralising the Queen. And after knight E1, which is a move that you talked about potentially weakening the white king a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Bishop takes, knight takes, and rook b8. I like black's position here.
Yeah, I love black here.
Rook d1, and now knight to g4. So it's clear here that black's aiming at the white king. He's going to be playing Queen h5. I would imagine next move, unless something is done about that.
So what do you do if I just go, for example, f3 here, Adam, or h3, and just say,
Excuse me. All right, so I don't think you can go f3 because I'll take on h2.
Right.
And then give you a check.
Oh, okay. Oh, and then just go for the mate. Oh, very
and then
nice.
Just take this one.
So what about h3 out of interest?
Now there's obviously something wrong with my little plan there.
I'm playing devil's advocate and just...
No, there's nothing. Okay, nothing.
Okay, no. Well, maybe the knight's trapped and you have some kind of weird knight f4 move or something.
h3. I was thinking I might try something.
Maybe knight e5 is a move. No. He's playing very aggressively here, isn't he, Harry? Yeah, he's going for the throat. You know, he's like, I'm not taking any draws, man.
I wondered about. I obviously wondered about sacrificing on f2
Oh yeah.
and then on g3, but
Can I know?
couldn't
Maybe
really
I could
see
just
follow
take
up.
and go queen f5 though, and get loads of play. Or
Take
is
here
that
and
too
go queen
much?
f5.
Yeah, maybe.
So take, queen f5.
I never do this stuff anymore. I'm too boring. I never give up pieces anymore. So maybe just king g1, bishop takes, rook f1, and then you kind of.
Ooh, that was a sudden jump, wasn't it? Bishop takes, and then okay, rook f1. I think I can meet with bishop h2.
Right. So actually, if you go back to the position after queen f5 check,
No, I can't meet it with bishop. What can I meet it with then? If I'm not meeting it with
queen h3, I guess.
just queen a, of course, yeah. Queen takes
Yeah.
h3, yeah.
So the position after queen f5 check, presumably there's a better move there for white. I don't know what it is, but I mean, it's bishop f4
Bishop somewhere, perhaps.
because
yeah.
if g5 we have knight e3, right? And then if queen e4, I go knight g4, and then if you take on f4, I have knight f6 check.
So hang on, that was quite fast. So g5.
Yeah,
knight
knight
e3,
e3, knight e3,
and if queen f6,
knight g4,
knight g4.
or
yeah.
queen e4, knight g4.
Queen e4, knight g4 with this threat
Yeah.
here.
So maybe Harry is, I don't know how much of this he's seen. I'd be intrigued to know how much he's seen.
So yeah, I mean h3. If you're not, h3 just strikes me as being like not an only move, but like getting towards that point.
Well, I guess you could allow queen h5
Could
and
allow it.
just
Play
play
main
h4 or
knight
something.
f4.
That's not really what you want as white in a cat line. That's why I was going back to what I was saying earlier about you generally don't want to exchange the light square bishops, weaken your king in that way. You know, the bishop on g2 is always very good for white in a Catalan. So when you exchange that bishop, you want to do it in a way where you're getting some kind of good endgame. But this isn't the case here. This doesn't feel like you're anywhere near an endgame. You have to survive a scary middle game to get to the endgame. So I think Taran's under a bit of pressure here.
I agree with you. I would agree with you. And
he's well down on the clock. Harry's, you know, I was chatting to Richard Bates yesterday, by the way, Adam, and he was saying that he's struggling with the time control here because it's so fast. That's partly maybe why he lost to Harry yesterday. Harry's a very quick player. And Richard felt under pressure because you don't have time to, you know, you get to time control, you don't really have time to go to the toilet and then have a big think as well. You're already under time pressure again. So it's more or less a glorified rapid, this whole British Chess Championships now, right? It should be called the British Rapid Play Championships. But anyway, yeah. By the way, Kevin Windsor says, Danny has mentioned Devil's Advocate a few times, maybe a Pacino fan. I should do a Godfather impression at some point. Yeah.
I wondered about knight f4, which was being suggested as well.
Take it.
Yeah. And then bishop takes.
Queen h5.
Queen
Crude
h5.
caveman stuff.
h4.
Why doesn't like my queen h5? Hates it.
I initially rejected it because I thought what black would just capture on b2, but of course if he captures on b2, I take on c7 and interfere a bit with your rooks.
But yeah, I didn't realise b2 was hanging. Yeah, so go back. Knight f. Well, also here you could play.
Queen f5 maybe.
Yeah. There's other options, right?
Queen b3 also attacks the rook.
Queen b3 is a good move. I like your queen b3 suggestion.
I think rook d3 is a little bit annoying.
Queen c2.
Rook c3. We'll have a little
Queen
dance,
d1.
Dance off.
Queen d1.
Queen d1 I missed. But is it so good? King g2.
Queen d4 maybe.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, queen b3 is a good
You
suggestion.
like that one?
Oh, I like that. Queen a4 is playable maybe.
Queen a4 is playable. Yeah.
It doesn't feel better for white, certainly. But yeah, this
Yeah,
could
Queen
even
A4
be
is a good
could even be best play. Knight f4, Queen b3, Queen a4. Weirdly enough,
But what's going to be very interesting is what happens if he goes h3.
H3 is possible. I mean,
You could play this knight e5, could you?
you could even go knight f6, man.
No, you can't go knight
I mean,
e5.
knight f6. We were saying yesterday about you always start from move 1, because a lot of people go, "Well, I'll put the knight on g4." I'm not playing it to go knight f6, right?
No, that's not going to work because of knight e3.
Because I'm completely losing a tempo. Yeah, but if you think about it, maybe h3 is giving you more options later on. So knight f6 would come into the equation.
Yes, absolutely. Just go back.
But that's kind of like an admission of what were you doing playing knight g4 in the first place. He clearly hasn't gone knight
You
g4.
don't think so? To provoke it?
Nah, I don't
No.
think so. He's not that deep a player, Harry. It's just crude. Right, crash through with prep or attack or... No, maybe I'm being harsh.
I think maybe I'm being a little bit harsh because now, of course, in order to guard that h pawn, if you do decide just to leave it where it is and not move it again to h4, then let's say I'm going queen h5 next move, then you can't really go king h2.
I know what you mean, but do people really go knight g4 to respond to h3 with knight f6? I just don't believe it. I just feel like anybody who plays a move like knight g4. I played this guy in the last tournament I played in Ghent, actually. It's very interesting. He played in knight g4 at some point, but he was just a hacker. And when I was trying to play moves, well, maybe you should go back. He just wasn't interested. He just wanted to keep going forward. And I don't think Harry's like that. He's a good attacking player, but it just seems a bit strange, h3, with the idea of provoking h3. It feels very positional, very strategic, very deep. I just feel you're playing h3 because you want to bluff the guy out, you want to take on f2, right? But maybe he's misassessed this line after knight f2, queen f5. That feels more likely.
Possibly. I saw that this game had headed quite a long way in. This is Mark Hebden playing as black. Sorry, is he black? No, he's white against Dom from Vietnam. And just have a quick look, see how you assess the end game.
Sure. Well, I mean, the bar is saying about equal, which seems about right. I mean, rook and pawn is known to be rook and pawns are known to be drawish.
Yeah.
And this position is equal material. I think white has a very tiny edge due to the following factors. A is high rated and B is high rated. Those are the factors that matter. Oh, hang on, the evaluations. No, it's coming down a little bit. Didn't like King F. No, it should be holdable for black.
Holdable. Yeah.
Because G3 you can just trade, right? Well, in fact, G3, I'm not even sure that's a massive threat of taking on F4. It's probably still a draw even if you take on F4. But I think G3
you'd be trade. Okay with rook E1 and would you swap the rooks? Would you keep them on?
Yeah,
safe?
That's a good question actually. It doesn't seem totally clear to me why white would be winning the king and pawn ending, right? I mean, is there an obvious reason why white's better in the king and pawn ending? If I quickly take and go king e6 to d6 and c5?
Yes. Yeah, you're going to have a pass pawn, I'm going to have a pass pawn.
Probably a draw, but if anyone's better, it might even be black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this should be a draw, which is obviously a bit of a disappointing result for Mark. He's still in the running, but he's had a few draws in his tournament, and the more draws you have, if you end up dropping another couple of draws, you're probably out of the running. So I don't think 6.5 will be enough to win the tournament. If he draws this game, the maximum he can get is 7.5. We were having this discussion earlier in the event, weren't we, Adam?
We were, yeah.
We were saying, what do we think? I said 7 might be a playoff. I'm sticking with that.
It's the Vietnam flag, not the Hong Kong flag.
Well, here in the British Championship, we welcome all countries, right, to play. Doesn't matter what country you're from, you can play in the British.
You do. Okay, Lan Yao versus Jonah Willow has. We had left this game. Did we leave it after d5? No, we didn't. We went a bit further, didn't we? We got to this queen e7 position. And here, white did something quite interesting. White exchanges on d5 to play f4.
Wow, very aggressive. Doesn't feel like it should give any advantage, but interesting idea.
Interesting idea, and I think actually what black does is very sensible here. Plays e4, but then plays knight g4.
you think that whole idea of going F4 kind of stems from maybe a slight lack of patience, that he doesn't want to just keep the tension for as long as possible? But I don't know if there was an obvious way to keep the tension. That was the problem. You know, because it felt like White had some slight attacking chances on the King's side, but now the position is very clarified to what we've seen in some kind of endgame. Which, to be honest, the endgame looks drawish that they've got on the board at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So the queens have come off, and these guys have come off, and we have opposite colour bishops now. And
it feels like White can just park the bishop on d4.
Yeah.
Maybe firstly you prevent bishop e2, because bishop e2 to c4 is also quite useful for black.
Quite useful. So maybe something just like king f2.
King f2 I would certainly be considering, and probably just play it automatically. And then stick the bishop on d4.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely fine.
The only way I could try and prevent that would be to do something rather artificial, like playing rook e8. But then you just would take the you take the b file, just play rook b1 and.
With the idea of
e3 check.
Yeah,
e3.
Of
course, it doesn't stop you going bishop d4, but I don't think it's a serious move.
You think? Who do you think is playing for the win here? I think White might be very slightly better, but it's probably not enough to. I think White might be slightly better in terms of. You know, it's easier to play, right?
Easier to play.
You go like rook b1, you start taking the b file.
Okay, I'm not sure about that move.
Not terrible h3,
Not terrible, of course,
but bishop.
It now does allow this idea of bringing the bishop round to c4.
Although I'm not quite sure even what that gains, to be honest. I mean, you know, how can black ever break through here? But actually, after bishop e2, you'll move rook b1. Can I now go rook c8? Hitting the pawn on c3.
And with bishop d4.
Now maybe e3 you just meet without rook e1, are you?
I think I'll go back, yeah.
But then if I drop the bishop back, say to a6.
Bishop a6.
Because my idea is if you trade everything, I'm going to take on c3. Although even that's drawish because you take on a7. I feel like this game is probably going to end in a draw.
To a draw.
Which is probably a reasonable result for both players. It keeps Jonah in it. He'll then get a white. And I think Jan is a very good player. So I don't think you'll think a draw is a disappointing result. Interestingly, developments in the Adams-Fernandez game.
So after bishop e7, he didn't go for my bishop c1. He went h4.
Yeah.
And after knight d5.
By the way, I cheated here. What do you think the best move here is for White? Maybe we could ask the audience as well.
After this knight d5. Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody
what does the audience suggest White to play?
White to move.
What would you play here as White?
Any suggestions? Yes. G5. Okay.
I think take on c3 then.
The only problem with that might be that after knight takes c3 check, I'm going to damage your pawns to the extent where now I could even maybe consider just capture it. No, I couldn't quite capture on a3. But okay, I mean I could play just knight d5 here. This looks quite reasonable.
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
Before I give the answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Knight e4.
Nope.
No.
Wrong. Yeah.
It's a good suggestion there.
Nope. That was a move played in the game.
Knight e2.
Who said knight e2?
Did you say knight e2 or knight a2?
I said a2.
Oh, wrong.
A2.
I thought you got it right. It's knight e2 was the
Knight
correct move.
e2. Okay, Danny, tell us the deep.
Well, I don't know. I just cheated because the engine was
cheated.
saying knight e2 was the move, and I think the main. Okay, there's a few reasons why knight e2 might be a good reason. I think firstly, a possibility of going c4. You're not necessarily worried about the capture on e3 because of your strength from the centre. You're ready to now go g5, kick the knight away. Generally speaking, White wants to avoid the exchange of pieces.
Yeah.
To keep the tension centre. But the way Adams has played it is obviously perfectly sensible.
So he exchanged the.
It's
plays
easy to
your
criticise
move,
when
knight
you've got
takes
an engine,
D5.
right?
Young
Yeah.
man, so well done. Knight takes D5. C4, exchanging those. minor
Yeah,
pieces.
so he's gone for very forced.
Queen takes.
I was slightly surprised Queen takes.
Yeah, that
F
surprises
takes
me a
looks
little
more
bit as
natural.
well.
Well, maybe he's. I think F takes. He would. Maybe he's not certain about the capture on H4.
Capture on H4.
It does look very dubious, but D5 now might be a good move.
It feels like the right time to do so. After all, the king is not
Yeah.
really getting castled at the moment. Definitely looks like a good move.
This position, it actually reminds me.
Be quite scared here if I was black, actually.
After he's taken on E3, it kind of reminds me of some
With
games.
the pawn or with the queen?
He took with the Queen, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even some game that Adams once had against Chris Ward, where he won with white, where he had the light square bishop against the dark square bishop. Or there was also some game of Shirov's, like back in the day. It just, yeah, I mean, the thing is, a very important strategic factor in chess is when you're attacking with the opposite colour bishops. Now here, white has the light square bishop against the dark square bishop. If you take all the heavy pieces off the board, it would clearly be a draw, right? Or, you know, seem very likely. In fact, black would even maybe be better because you would go bishop f6 and hit the pawn on d4. But in the middle game, because the black king is slightly more insecure than the white king, I think Adams is counting on the fact that he can now create an attack in the middle game. This is essentially his idea, which actually is very sensible. And it still looks like a very dangerous position for black. If you castle, I go g5, right? Maybe. Or I'd start attacking somehow. Maybe
Yeah,
queen
yeah.
e4 also
Queen
possible.
E4, yeah.
Queen e4, g6, h5, very direct stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of logic behind what Adams is doing. Yeah, I think if you castle here, maybe I do go g5, because if let's say I went queen e4 here, g6, h5, bishop f6 kind of is annoying, because although, mind you, even this looking very dangerous. Something like bishop c2 or something, or take on g6, and maybe go for the
Take on
attack.
G6 looks sensible.
Yeah, I fear the worst here for Dan Fernandez, my fellow Dan.
There's a question from the chat, and I think it's a very reasonable question. Is after knight takes d5, why allow knight takes e3? Can white avoid it and then just play c4 and push that? I mean, that's what I would definitely think. I would.
Well, I think
I'd
Adams
like to
just say that he likes clarification. You know, we've seen in his games he likes simplicity. We saw that yesterday. He took on d7. I mean, there are shades of Bobby Fischer in his play, right?
Yeah, I'm actually in this position. I think it might just be a tactical thing that if the bishop moves somewhere, then queen b6,
Yes, exactly.
and you have to now play king a1,
Starts getting a bit murky, right?
and then queen takes d4.
Yeah, you see variations like this and you think, well, yeah, okay, maybe the computer is saying this is rubbish for black, but for a human player, you don't want to calculate this. You get to the position that he's got on the board in your mind, and you see that it's very promising for white with zero risk. So I think this is a practical decision, which I think is sensible, because, you know, like a draw would not be totally disastrous for Adams, but he cannot afford to lose a game. If he loses a game, he's 1.5 points behind with only 5 rounds
games to
remaining,
play, yeah.
and he would be in big trouble. But here he can. I think his idea is he's just going to play for win with.
He's obviously still got the advantage.
He's still got an advantage,
So-
yeah. The onus is on Fernandez to play very good moves from this position to avoid getting into trouble.
And I think the same sort of thing applies to bishop takes h4. If you were even considering it, is that just d5 is going to happen, and just
Yeah,
gonna be-
or maybe even f4 is also an idea. But yeah, I like your d5 move. Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. And just breaking. I think this is a point when you're grabbing pawns like that, you're costing yourself a lot of time.
a lot of time. And of course, now your king would be so much safer if this pawn was still on h4. Of course.
But we were talking earlier about people rush the castle, because they're worried about the king being in the centre. Whereas earlier there was no threat to the black king. After bishop h4 d5, there's a very obvious threat to the black king. So you can't just go, right, I'm just going to leave the king in the centre forever. So yeah,
something like queen b6.
Queen b6 is sensible, right?
Gains a move because bishop takes a3 is threatened. So you think probably here either bishop c2 or king a1 would be.
I would play bishop c2.
You play bishop c2, yeah.
I think this is a sort of position that Anatoly Karpov as white would play brilliantly in his peak, because if he was very prophylactic, you know, black will try and create counterplay, white will try and shut that down, while pursuing the long-term plan of attacking the black king. And I mean, you know, it's not obvious how black creates counterplay here. Maybe bishop f6 is a move.
Yes. And what do you want after g5?
No, so I think I meant bishop f6 before we go queen b6.
Ah, before you go queen f6.
But it doesn't really help because you just drop the bishop back anyway, right? And then you might get tempoed with g5, like say bishop c2.
Yeah, bishop c2 anyway.
And it's unpleasant position for black. So I think Fernandez is under big pressure. A very clever decision by Adams to simplify the position.
Yep. Go
for a simple position. You know, I think that's one of the skills in chess that you see with someone like Adams. You know, all the great competitors in any kind of sporting activity, you know, somehow they make it look easy. And it's not easy. You know, there's a lot going on underneath the surface. You know, it's like a duck. Yeah, I think with a super grandmaster like Michael Adams, it's like a duck. You know, it makes it look easy, but it's like a duck with stuff going on underneath the surface. A lot of calculation going into his play.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. I noticed we have a player who's entered the commentary room, Jack Rudd. Jack, would you like to show your game, demonstrate your game?
Yeah, do you want to cover it?
I'm happy to, yeah.
Yeah, I can have a little
Just give me a moment
food break
to get us set up. Okay, so we've been joined by Jack Rudd, who has won his game.
Yeah.
Just get this up here, so we've got the names up at the top. And so congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
That takes you to how many points?
2.5.
2.5. Okay. So yeah, just as you wish, talk us through.
Yes, well, I was playing a young player who I'd never played before, so
James Merriman, who's had a good tournament so far,
yeah,
from what I believe.
Well, must be if he's on 1.5 with a 2067 rating. He must be playing reasonably well.
Yes, beat international.
I beat Kolbus, right?
Beat Mark Kolbus, which is never an easy thing to do, and drew John Piggott, another IM.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's done what he's had a good tournament so far. So okay.
So yeah, so I was hoping just to keep it fairly simple and.
So Nimzo Indian, B6.
Yeah, knight e4, which I haven't seen before in this position. I mean, most people play bishop. Okay, right, yeah. Haven't really seen this before in this position. Most people I've seen play bishop a6, but it looks a reasonable enough move.
So Queen C2 asks the question of the knight, of course,
yeah,
and that one looks like it should be defended. Yes,
yeah.
Bishop B7.
A3, yes.
Take. So
I've got the 2 bishops, but I'm slightly behind in development, and it's not entirely trivial to get that king's bishop out.
So tell me about queen c2.
Queen c2. Well, the idea is to play f3 so that I can develop the bishop. But if I play f3 immediately, queen h4 check might be a bit annoying.
Right. Okay. And you're going to meet that with queen f2?
Yes.
Right, okay. So if g3, for example, here, then the queen will probably just drop back to f6, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I can't... Maybe it drops back to h5, and then I play e4, and he plays f5, and it's...
Right, okay, yeah. So here, and try and just directly start now attacking the...
Yeah.
Attacking the slightly weak king.
I mean, it's probably playable, but it's messy, and I didn't particularly want that.
Okay, so queen c2.
Okay, f5, f3.
c5, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like a sensible play by black there. So
Yep.
take. Bishop d3.
Yep, d3 rather than e2, so that I can meet the queen check with queen f2.
Okay, and he decided to go in for this endgame.
Yes.
Were you a little bit surprised by that?
I was, yes. I thought black's chances are better with the queens on.
Yeah,
but
so possibly in this position, a
just-
slightly different choice, maybe knight c6, for example.
yeah,
Bring it into e5. Looks pretty reasonable.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Take.
Yeah, so
Knight c6.
bishop d2, just planning to put it on the c3 square and
Yeah.
see what it gives.
Okay. Knight e5 and bishop must drop back.
Yeah.
Bishop e2.
d5.
d5, okay. So
So I thought, well,
that move...
those hanging pawns in the centre are probably going to be vulnerable, so...
Yeah, so the engine doesn't necessarily like that one.
Yes.
Probably
Maybe A5 like that.
a5.
Yeah, that looks reasonable.
a5, bishop c3, and I guess just move the knight away somewhere.
Yeah.
Back to c6. I wondered about possibly bishop a6.
Yeah, if he goes bishop a6, I think I'll go bishop c3
C3 is a
anyway.
little trick, so now knight takes
see.
pawn could be met by b3 and there's a
Yeah.
pin. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so d5, so you talk about the hanging pawns, so that's where the pawns are paired off like this, and one of them advances, then it gives some squares around it.
Yeah.
And although visually they maybe look quite attractive, they're also quite easy to attack here.
Yes.
Certainly the one on c5. So,
With the queen still on, it would be a different story, and they could be quite a nuisance. But I don't think in this position they're anything much.
okay, so knight c6, rook d1, rook d8,
b4.
b4.
Yes.
So strategically there, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get control of that
Yes.
c4 square. So if, for example, c4 now, we do have a protected passed pawn, but it's well blockaded. I imagine you might then play b5.
Yeah. Yes.
Shift that knight away somewhere. Try and now you can see already that white has not very nice control over that square, and potentially perhaps already bishop d4 is building nice pressure against a7 as well, where if he now plays a6, then I think white has probably a couple of good moves. a4 looks very natural.
Yeah. So what he actually played was d4.
d4, wow, very combative.
Yes. So
You took,
Yeah.
took, drop your bishop away.
yes.
So this pawn now looks like he's going to be
Yes.
slightly in trouble. a6 stops b5 for the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
c1 looks really natural. Rook d6, rook c5,
Yep.
g6.
Oh, the engine does not like that. Yes. That's because I think
No.
I'm winning a pawn tactically now.
Right. Also, g6 just looks quite a strange
Yes,
move in the
well,
regard that you.
Obviously, he wants to bring his other rook in to defend his pawn, which is what rook c5 was aimed against.
But it also opens up this diagonal for your
Yeah.
bishop.
Yes.
And certainly after this check, the king now has to step on the diagonal, which
Yes.
he really doesn't want.
Yes. If he'd gone to h8, I'd have played rook takes c6, which I think is
Let's just see
outright
that.
winning.
So king here, rook takes c6. and the pointers after bishop takes c6,
Rook takes d4.
rook takes d4. Nice idea there. You're not kind of parting with your bishop as such. Instead, you're going to just play rook takes d4 and move your rook next move.
Yes,
I mean,
and if rook df6, rook d6, and everything's dropping.
and king here, and now in this position, you can calmly just take the bishop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay,
So
he has
king
to go king g7 in
Yes.
this case.
Now, I can win a pawn here by playing bishop takes d4 check, but I wasn't entirely sure of that
Seems
line.
a great shame to part with that bishop.
Bishop d4, knight d4,
Rook c7,
rook c7, king
somewhere. Yeah,
let's say
just
it.
put it there.
Yeah.
And
Rook takes b7, rook c8, and maybe he's getting something for it.
Rook c8. Okay.
But I thought bishop d5 looked a slightly better way of winning the pawn.
Okay, so let's see why bishop d5 wins the pawn. So here we just got loads and loads of pressure against this one.
Yep.
And you're simply going to capture on c6 and take on d4, are you?
Well, if he doesn't do anything about it, yes.
Okay, so here, take. Aha, okay, so that was quite nice because you've now got
Now got
an
all,
extra pawn, plus you've got bishop against knight,
yes,
and exchanged pair pieces, okay? Knight e6,
and then I saw, yeah,
and that's
the bishop is just going to be a monster against the knight in the minor piece ending. So
take, knight c7,
bishop c4.
and this
yes,
is now really just a matter of technique in the
yes.
respect that
As a get the bishop
got the
dominating the
extra-
knight, like by going 3 squares away.
so check.
Yeah. A4. Yes.
And any time that knight steps on a light square, we're just going to chop it off
Yeah.
and just win the king and pawn endgame. So that looks like a little bit of desperation
Yeah.
to get the king active.
Yes.
A6, A7, and bishop D5.
Yep.
This resigns. Okay, well played.
Thank
Nice
you.
game. Nice after yesterday's
Yes.
game.
Yesterday's
That
was
How quick was your game yesterday?
17 moves, something like that.
Yeah.
Not very much time. Yeah. I just completely overlooked Queen A3 in that position.
Right, yeah. But already it felt a bit suspicious, like
Yeah.
Queen E8 felt a bit suspicious, I thought,
Yeah.
probably. But okay, anyway, back to 2.5, well done, and probably a tough game tomorrow, I
Yes.
imagine. Thank you very much.
Now you want to check out the game on board 15.
Okay.
Weird things are happening there.
Thanks very much. Great.
Really long game there by Jack.
Yeah, we missed that because the speaker was off, Danny.
Oh no. Okay.
So Danny was just saying another epically long game by Jack. But Jack did suggest we checked out board 15, and why not? So can you tell us who's? So that is Tanya Morala against Thomas Villiers, who Thomas joined us earlier in the tournament, and he had a good draw yesterday with Richard Pert.
Right.
Wow, and it is a really, really crazy position.
Yeah, hang on. This is Trisha, isn't it? I thought it was.
Yes, this is Trisha.
Yeah, Taran was playing Harry Grieve today, right?
Yeah, I think I said Trisha.
But I thought you just said he had a great draw against
Thomas
Pert.
Villiers.
Oh, Tom Villiers. Oh, Richard Pert. Right, I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, castles. Okay, apparently this is good for white though. Well, how was the opening go? Sorry,
Sure, let's
can you
have-
go for the opening. How on earth did they get this crazy position?
So D4.